really just a brief snapshot of all the things that came to mind over the last couple of weeks when Portia and Mike and Brent, who's also in my team, were discussing it. Just from our perspective, acknowledging the traditional custodians and animal people of our region. That's a little bit of artwork we did for our Reconciliation Action Plan. It's the Three Rivers heading into the Canberra region. Next. I'll do a couple of slides. Portia will do one. I think Mike's got a couple at the end too. So, and again, apologies if I'm going to rush this a little bit. And if there's anything you're particularly interested to know, at the end you can quiz us on what that might be of particular interest. For those who don't know, that's the Lower Molonglo Water Quality Control Centre. That's our main sewage treatment plant in the ACT. It treats around 110 million litres a day, 110 megs a day. That's the largest inland water treatment sewage treatment plant in Australia, actually. So significant investment there, and there has been some large investments happening as we speak, and there's a very large consortium of consultants that's been put together to future plan the upgrades at Lower Molonglo from the primary stage, which is that heat treatment of the sewage, and that bioreactor stage, which is that secondary part to treat the phosphorus and nitrogen and salts and so forth. So, I mean, we're talking, there's potentially billions of dollars there of upgrades over the next 20 years. It's quite significant. So there's a lot of work happening in the business around sewage treatment, but also at the moment there's this sort of a corollary. Our source water strategy is we do 50-year strategies for the source water and the sewage treatment. Previously we would probably do them separately, but now they're nearly one and the same thing, particularly when you look forward 50 years and what impacts the region might feel in terms of climate change and also population growth. Only remarking there recently how much population growth there's been around where I live in that Western Creek area, Coomsright, Molonglo, and then a meeting with Googong Township yesterday. Didn't go back that many years. There was nothing in Googong except paddocks. So what else are we going to talk about? A big challenge for us as a business in this last 12, 18 months has been we've decoupled from ActU-AGL. It's an internal business thing, but what I mean is that ActU-AGL and Icon Water were very much hand in glove in relation to a lot of the services that we did for each other, like payrolls and HR and safety and IT and billing and on-call, a whole heap of stuff. So as a business, we've decoupled from them and we've set up all our own processes and systems now. It's a massive, massive issue internally, because once you start mucking with IT issues and trying to separate them, so there's been a lot of work internally around all of that. So I think that was it basically from us. Next one, please. Portia.
So I'm Portia. I'm Senior Land and Weeds Management Officer at Icon Water. I manage the land around assets for Icon Water and the Williamsdale property. So earlier this year in May, we had the cool burn with Wally Bell, Ngunnawal Elder. That was really quite a successful event, even just from good conversations amongst the business. So huge thanks to everyone who helped with that. We internally at Icon Water, I've been really quite excited about doing some more integrated weed management strategies. So we've actually got grazing happening with cattle and also with sheep. I didn't get a chance to put any photos in, but yesterday I went out to one of our properties that we've been struggling with, St John's Wort, and we actually have had a lot of success. Oh, actually there's a photo right there. This is CEAF on this side, and that was the next door neighbours. This now looks very similar to that. So we've been really happy with reducing the amount of chemical that we're using. That particular site we could use, hundreds of litres of chemical, and all of a sudden it's absolutely beautiful. It's been a lot of trial and tribulation with getting the grazing right. We've got an extensive grazing management plan to be able to help us do that. Also some other things at the Williamsdale property. So a little bit less spoken about is a lot of erosion remediation that we've been doing across the property. We realise that we're part of the Murrumbidgee catchment, particularly with this property. So we're doing our absolute best to make sure that the water quality coming from the property is of really good quality. So this was one very large erosion gully that we had on the New South Wales section of the property. We've actually got 2 that we've remediated. It's looking fantastic. So happy to take anyone out there to have a look. Quite proud of it. And the other thing that we're doing as well is actually adding carbon. So from around the properties at Icon Water, we actually do arborist bog work, and instead of chipping it and taking it away, we reuse the logs on the property to add habitat and other sort of islands of habitat for animals, small vertebrates and birds and things like that. And if anybody has any questions or wants to talk to me a bit more about anything that we're doing in that respect, come and find me.
I was just going to mention there's some other things that we've been involved in during the year, Mike particularly, and thanks to him. Every 3 years we have to write what's called a catchment sanitary survey for the Department of Health. It's under the Australian Drinking Water Guidelines. It basically gives an in-depth review of our 3 water catchments, Upper Murrumbidgee, Googong and Cotter, and the quality of that catchment in relation to the water that it produces for us. And we have to match that against the operability of our water treatment plant. And so if we're saying in our report that the catchment is not very good, it's getting worse, and our water treatment plant is only operable to this level, it means there's a $10, $20, $30 million impost on the business to upgrade the water treatment plant. Anti has helped a lot, as is the Coombe Water Watch data and chip, and so thank you very much for that. We often reference it. And just on that, as I mentioned there earlier, I was in Sydney recently for that Australian Land Conservation Alliance conference, and the CHIP report, the UMCN Coolburn, and that the CHIP and the Water Watch relationship were 2 things particularly that I used as case studies in terms of nature positive and working together for a greater outcome. So it was excellent, actually. I think I was just going to say that we're working on the Googong Actions for Clean Water update with alluvium. And we have this year, Icon Water's particularly worked a lot with ACT government in relation to things like there was a 2-day biosecurity incident exercise, capital standstill, or as a foot and mouth exercise. It's been great to work alongside ACT government in that respect. And we're doing a lot of bushfire preparedness across the whole estate, from Namadgi to all of our assets around the city. And we have, at last count, a bit over 7,000 kilometres of pipeline. So it takes a lot of work from Brent in our team to organise all of that. So this is actually a picture from the Corrin. And this is just showing a lot of that sediment, which is post-Aurora Valley Fire. This is taken probably 18 months ago now, though. But yeah, a significant impact from post-Aurora Valley Fire, Upper Corrin. And this is like a massive, massive sediment slug which comes off Pierces Creek into the Cotter Dam. And some of the work that Parks have been doing around pine wilding removal and things like that. Again, there's a little bit of a snapshot of everything there. So, Mike.
Yes, I'm Michael Harrison, Senior Aquatic Monitoring Officer. Look after a bunch of monitoring programs for Icon Water. So in order for us to take water from the environment, it usually comes with a licence from ACT government, EPA. And in that licence is a bunch of conditions which mean we have to monitor the receiving environment up and downstream of impacts. So one of the programs is the Below Dams programs, and that looks to monitor the impacts of environmental flows in the Cotter catchment, but also the Googong one as well. One of the ecological measures we look at is filamentous algae, making sure that it stays within below 20% in riffle environments. So contractors go out there and take all these monitoring measures, and we get a report card basically that shows us what the catchment or the river health is like every year. That happens every year. We get that report. I think sampling happens twice a year. So this year, filamentous algae was low. Water quality parameters were quite good, nothing really significant in the catchments. That we had a good, weather and good rain and good water in the catchment. Nitrous oxides were quite high, particularly at Bendora, which is can be a natural phenomena. So that's not too bad. We also have like reference sites that we go and monitor as well, so that gives us a bit of an indication whether it's a trend that's larger or more specific to our dams that we manage. There is also biological monitoring that takes place, so that's collecting bugs and looking at the sensitivities of which bugs we capture. In particular, this year, Googong Dam went from a Band A, which is a good condition, to a Band C, which is a poor condition. But since our monitoring program is quite long, it's ongoing all the time, we can see that that's quite normal for Googong to go from a good condition to a bad condition quite quickly. And sometimes it's got to do with the day that you go out there and the rain that's happened beforehand, and it sort of goes up and down. So with the reference sites, we can see whether there's an actual urgent issue, or whether it's more fits within the range of the kinds of results that we always see. Next slide. Just quickly, this is another monitoring program. Macquarie, so a good result from Macquarie Perch in the Cotter Dam. You see that this is Macquarie Perch abundance that we've captured or we record every year. So from 2010 to 24, the grey bars indicate when the dam was filling, that new dam was filling. The white bars are before the dam was filling. So we see a pretty consistent trend there. Macquarie Perch are doing well. And there's a few different changes that we monitor as well. Trout species, bird species. The reservoir has stayed quite level over the last 5 years. So we're starting to see the return of macrophyte beds and decapod populations. So in the Cotter Dam, the ecology is looking really, really good. This is bottom graph is brown trout numbers. So brown trout being a predator of Macquarie Perch. They seem to be dropping off entirely. So that's really good news.